Hello, welcome to another video of the Complete Angular course. In this video, I'll be talking about routing. When we talk about routing in web development, we're talking about the control of distributing content to our users based on the web address we enter in the browser. Routing always used to be that you have a browser and a web server. When you enter a web address in the browser will send a request to the web server and it will look for a list of routes for the website. Then it will respond back with a page associated with that address. Once the browser receives a page, it will render it onto the screen. This process is repeated every time you visit a page. Routing is different when you use Angular. When you enter a website that is built with Angular, instead of fetching for a page from the web server, the browser will download a JavaScript application and run it locally on the computer. Then all the routing is done on the computer inside the application. What's happening behind the scenes is that we're swapping components inside our web page with other components. This causes an illusion that we're getting a new page, but in reality, we are really in the same page. Contents are just being swapped in and out. How it works is that there will be a bunch of components and several placeholders in parts of our page where components can be swapped in and out. Then there's a route handler that manages the routes and placements of the components. If we navigate to example.com/downloads and our route handler contains that route, the route handler will take the downloads component and place it into the placeholders of our page. Let's do some examples. Open your Angular project on VS Code. Earlier in the course, we already had routing set up because we entered yes for the routing question. But if you did not enable routing, you have to execute this command with these options. This will help us create our router and add it to our application. If you're curious to what the command do, ng-generate module app routing will create a module called app routing. The routing flag will add the necessary code in the module, so it will turn our module into a route handler. The flag will place the file inside the app folder instead of creating its own folder, and the module flag will add the routing module inside our app module so it will be used in the application. These files and options are generated automatically when we enter yes for the routing questions, so you can skip this step if you did that. Our next step is to go into the app component HTML page and add the placeholder for our route handler to place components in. To add a placeholder, we use the router outlet tags. Now we're all set up for routing. We have our route handler and a placeholder for the route handler to place components in. Let's add some routes to our application. Go to the app routing module file. What you need to focus on is the routes array. This is where we define our routes. Each route is an object that must have the path and component property. The path is the extension of our domain name. For example, if the website is example.com and our path is downloads, it will be example.com/downloads. Similarly, if our path is an empty string, it will just be example.com because an empty string means no extension. Component is the component we want to place in the placeholder when this route is activated. Since we do not have a component, create a component called downloads with the ng-generate component command. Then set the component property. So now, when we go to localhost 4200/downloads, it should display the contents of the downloads component, which is a paragraph tag with a message. Let's verify that. Save the project and start the local server. Open the browser and go to localhost 4200/downloads. As you can see, the contents in the download component is being displayed. Now let's say we went to a non-existing route like downloads 2. We got a blank page because the route is not defined. This is bad because we want to always let visitors of our site know that there's a problem when they go to a non-existing web address of our site. One solution will be to define a bunch of routes so our users will always get a page. However, that is a bad approach and it is unreliable. In Angular, we can use something called a wildcard path. When a route uses its path, the route will be activated when no other route matches the web address. We can use this to display something on the screen like an error message when the visitor visits a non-existing route. To begin, generate an error component. Go to the app routing module file and add a wildcard route. To indicate that the route is a wildcard route, we set the path property of the route with the double asterisk syntax. Lastly, use the array component for the component property. Now save the project and go to the browser. Go to localhost 4200/downloads2. As you can see, even though we did not define a route for downloads2, we still display something on the screen. Let's take a moment to recap what we have learned. We learned how to set up our application for routing using the ng-generate module command and some flags. We learned how to insert a placeholder in our page so the route handler can place components in it when a particular route is activated. We learned how to define the routes, and we also learned the importance of the wildcard route and how to define one. Thank you for watching. If you find this video helpful, please like and subscribe to support the channel. If you have questions, leave a comment in the comment section below.